I'm here with Anthony Masiello, and we have a mutual friend through Josh Lajani. Kind of got connected. Has a great story of transformation, of weight loss. And first off, Anthony, thanks for taking the time. And maybe we could just start out with where you're from and a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Jason. Like you said, I'm Anthony. I'm from New Jersey. I live here with my wife and two sons. They're 10 and 12 years old. And yeah, looking
Great.
forward to talking with you.
Yeah, it's great. I think I saw you lost a total of 163 pounds. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. It's a little bit gray because I don't know what my peak is. I think like so many other people, but it was around 360 there, and I finished just under 200 pounds.
Okay, yeah, I feel like there are a lot of people who have a similar conversation about that with, even if nothing else from the standpoint of I didn't want to get on the scale to know what I weighed.
Yeah.
So I think I saw in an interview that you said I had accepted obesity as part of who I am because it's common in my family. We all look the same and had similar health concerns, so it was easy to accept my condition as unavoidable. What was kind of your expectation, maybe of health, and maybe also of food growing up?
Yeah, so going way back, it starts for me, I mean, almost as long as I can remember, and I have to say almost, I'll tell you why. I was kind of like the fat kid. Like I had friends who were normal weight and everything, and I was like the one who was a little bit chubby, and it was like in the 70s and 80s it was kind of like a thing. Like I don't know. I remember kids like this one kid would try to stick his finger in my belly button, like just because he thought that was funny or something. But and not in a malicious way. I'm not trying to say it like that. But it was always accepting and it was always there. And I remember, I have to say almost, because I do remember when I first realized that I was overweight. And that was where, see, I grew up in North Carolina and I spent the summers with my dad in New Jersey. And going back and forth, I left North Carolina, and when I came back, I spent the summer in New Jersey. And when I came back, my friends there noticed a big change. And they actually asked me, they said, Anthony, what happened to you over the summer? I said, I don't know. It must have happened gradually over that couple of months. But that's how I started in the fifth grade. And that's how I stayed for a long time. So growing up, that kind of became a little bit of who I was. I started to eventually kind of identify with that, and it affected me, into my adulthood.
And then did it, was there a point at which it kind of really ramped up, or was it something that happened so gradually over time that it's hard to even really pinpoint a time frame where it really there's really a big change that happened?
Yeah, over the whole span of my life, it was probably very gradual. There were some bumps in there. There were some times where I would lose weight. I would get really motivated and I would try whatever it was at that time to lose weight. I remember there was a point in high school where I was actually, starting to feel pretty comfortable with my weight. And then it would come back. And then there was a point when, when I was finishing college that again, I got down. And I think at that point, when I say I got down to, I remember being pretty happy weighing 290 pounds. So I was like, oh, and I felt like closer to normal, like I could wear clothes that other people were wearing, and probably also because they started making things bigger, there in the mid to late 90s. But so I had some dips. I tried all kinds of things, and then I got to a point where I almost kind of settled with it, and I said, okay, this is me, and this is how I'm gonna be. And I was what I would call kind of functionally obese. Like I still skateboarded, I still snowboarded, I still, I lived in Baltimore City. I still rode a bicycle everywhere that I went. So I was able to do these things, and so I guess looking back now, it's very easy looking back. Maybe I really didn't have that kind of strong motivation to make a big change because I was doing, able to do some things. I'll tell you now, if we fast forward, it's way easier to do all of those things today than it was at 300 plus pounds, whatever it was at the time, especially snowboarding. I just remember like really beating up my legs, and I remember I could never go past like noon. I would get up first chair, passionate about it, right? Whatever mountain we were at, like right on the lift, right up the mountains, go go go, no breaks, no stop, and then by like 2 hours later, done. And mostly that that would be my knees. I just really wouldn't be able to stand up on the snowboard anymore, and it would get dangerous. So I guess back to the question. So it kind of slowly and gradually kind of up and down, and then when it really hit me was actually after I got married, and when we started having kids, starting a family.
And then, did you have any medical issues that you dealt with that kind of crept up in the midst of everything, or things that you dealt with day to day?
Yeah, so I did. So by the time I was like what I call the start of my journey, at that point in time, I weighed somewhere around 360 pounds. I was on medication for high blood pressure. It's something that I had been told from the time I was 18, and now this is when I started making a change. I was at 33 years old. So throughout that time, I was always told my blood pressure was borderline. Watch your blood pressure, do something about it, but never anything specific. And but probably around age 30, I was put on medication. The doctor said, "There's no way, you need to go on medication." So I was on medication for high blood pressure. I got migraine headaches. I didn't think it was related to anything else. Turns out that they went away as well. The regular, the physical things, not being able to fit places. I'm 6'4", so 6'4" and 360 pounds. I have the height working against me, and the width. I had a 54-inch waist, so like sitting in any kind of armchair. Whether it was at work in a conference room or on the street at a restaurant, with outside dining where if they have an armchair. I literally would kind of close my eyes and push myself into that chair and then be in pain until it was time to get up.
Wow. I think I saw that, you mentioned 33, and I think you said maybe in an interview that you were denied a 20-year life insurance policy due to the obesity and the poor health. And you said the thought of not making it to age 53 hit hard, especially coming from a life insurance policy. It sounds like at that point you probably had kids as well.
Yeah. So reason I went to, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, can you talk about that a little bit? With that whole process and what that was like.
Yeah. So when my first son, my wife was pregnant with our first son, I went to get a life insurance policy, and I actually got a 20-year term life insurance policy, whatever it was. And I was in a very high risk category. Then, for whatever reason, 2 years later, my wife was pregnant with our second son, and I wanted to increase the policy. So I went and I applied for a second 20-year term life insurance policy. And at that point, they didn't put me in any high risk category. They just said, you're denied. We're not insuring you. And that did hit me pretty hard because I understand data and analysis and business, and I know that an insurance company, they're in the business of selling policies, not denying people policies, right? They want to get our monthly premiums so that they can make money at the end of the day. And for them to tell me that they didn't want my monthly premium, even in a high risk, higher, more expensive policy, that they have the information and the data to really do those calculations, and their predictions said I wasn't worth insuring. So to my logical mind, that really did it. It hit pretty hard, and especially being a new father and thinking, okay, wow, I'm starting a new chapter in my life. This is a beginning, and I'm already told that the kind of the end was near. So that got me on like I said, on a logical level. There were other things that now I look back on that were much more important, and they're a little bit less logical. It's more on kind of the like the emotional level. Like other things that I couldn't do. My wife was pregnant at the time, and we went to the local fair. It comes around at the church. They set up a nice carnival. So here I am with an 18-month-old son. I'm holding him. I don't know if you can see. I'm holding him here on my chest. His head is here, and I'm walking with my pregnant wife. So at that time, whatever she was, probably maybe 7 or 8 months pregnant, but definitely like visibly, she's the pregnant one, and I'm just the big one holding the kid, and he starts pointing. And he's pointing at the choo-choo train ride. It was like a Thomas the Train or something, and it went in a circle that was not big at all. But he was excited about this, and he wasn't talking really, but he was pointing, and he obviously wanted to go. So I was excited, right? It's his first time he was at a carnival. The first time, he's excited about something. So as we're walking towards the ride, I very naturally, not consciously, I just pull him away from my chest like this, and I hand him to my wife, right? And while I'm doing that, he's like pulling my shirt, right? And he's kind of tugging me because, and I think he wants me to take him on the ride, right? But there is no way. Like, there is no way I'm going to fit on this choo-choo train, at this carnival to go around, So I give him to my wife. By the time they get through the gate, he's fine, right? He's going on the choo-choo train. He's, I don't even know if I exist, if he thinks I exist anymore. But I had to sit there then, and I had to step to the side, right, when they went in, and I literally stand behind a metal gate, and I have to watch as this train goes around the tracks with my wife, my pregnant wife, who's probably not very comfortable on the train either, right? But I couldn't do that for her, and with my son who wanted me to take him on the train, and I have to watch. And I think to myself, like, I'm almost like a bystander in this life, like I'm observing what I should be experiencing. And those are really the things that, I mean, that's a big trigger. It's not on the logical level. It's much deeper. But looking back, I think the little experiences like that, whether I realized them or not, like those things added up. And that was really huge motivators for really making a change.
I know you also said, I know the emotional is the you see somebody who maybe you can see visibly they're uncomfortable in a chair or they're uncomfortable in their clothing. Emotional is one of those things you don't see, especially you don't see whenever somebody's in their home alone. I know you said that, you'd sometimes get depressed at night after finishing the better part of a pint of ice cream. Was depression something that you struggle with while being overweight that you kind of had to deal with, privately, personally, that other people weren't aware of?
Yeah, I don't know. And I never called it depression. But what I knew for sure is that I wasn't proud of myself, right? And in public and with friends, I used to tell people, I'm not fat. I just have really thick skin. Or, I'm a giant. I'm twice as wide as you, but I'm also twice as tall as you. So it's very easy when you're outside with other people to laugh it off, be a little bit funny, try to, make light of the situation, right? I think that's pretty dangerous because we're basically validating for ourselves that what we're doing is fine, is correct. And I, we can get to that a little bit later because I hope one of your later questions is what advice can I give to other people? but
It absolutely will.
Yeah. So specifically for depression, I don't know if I was like, if anyone else would have called me depressed. But when I would sit there alone and you don't have anyone to kind of mask that stuff with or anyone to kind of shrug it off with or laugh, like it's the truth, you're there with just you and yourself. And at some point you realize that you are who you are because of the choices and the decisions and the things that are important to you. And if you get a little bit bummed out and you look over to the right and there's the table with the empty pint of Ben and Jerry's with a spoon on it, you didn't even get up and put it in the garbage, it's still sitting there, an hour later while you're watching TV or something, those things definitely caught up with me, as well. And the best way I can describe it is to say, not being proud of myself or what I kind of created for myself.
I think I saw in your own words, you said you had a physically fit and a beautiful wife. Did you guys ever have conversations about your weight or concerns that she had? I know for me personally, not that it came up that often, but anytime my wife would mention anything remotely about it, that was a huge kind of defense mechanism for me, and was also a certain level of uncomfortableness because you go out and you're this guy, and there's your beautiful wife, and people are kind of looking at, going
Yeah.
eyes back and forth. Was that a conversation for you guys at all before? I know for me personally, mine was always on the health concerns, my wife being concerned about my weight and my well being. But did you guys ever kind of chat about that, or was that even a discussion?
No, we really didn't. I mean, been incredibly supportive. Like if when I was on a kick or when I was doing something positive and it was working well, um, or if let's say I lost 20 pounds or I lost 10 pounds or, and I started to feel good, my clothes started to actually fit me, even the clothes that I had, even the 54s, like I wasn't hanging over them. And I would tell her and she would be very supportive. She would kind of celebrate those little things with me. And she would be a little bit encouraging if I was on the right path. But if I wasn't there, she really never did try to say, I wish you would do something or let me try to help you out or things like that. The best way I can just describe it, she was always incredibly supportive, of me for who I was. Um, Now I say that she was a chubby chaser. but yeah, but I tease her like that, and she takes it. I don't think she actually likes when I say that very much, but it's funny. But she really did. She accepted me exactly who I was and how I was, and she didn't really have the concerns. It probably helps that it was just the two of us at the time, and as soon as we had kids, I did start making a change. I'm sure that we something happens when you become a parent, and I would guess a lot more of that would have started, coming into play. I mean, certainly not being able to be insured, right? That's really her problem. That's not so much my problem.
Yeah, I could see how that could turn things around pretty quickly. So did you have a point in which you said, you had to, like, I have to make a change. This is something's got to
Yeah.
happen. Was it more gradual? Was it a specific, 180-degree turn? What kind of happened there?
So I didn't really know what to do, but I knew I had to do something. I was denied that insurance policy in November, and as a procrastinator, I said, okay, I'm going to start January 1st. I'm going to try to set myself up. I'm going to figure out what to do. So this is the end of 2005, going into January of 2006. So I basically, by the time it got around, I had set a New Year's resolution to lose 50 pounds in 2006. Like that was my goal. I didn't really know how I was going to do it. I was going to eat less, and that's what I was going to concentrate on. So my New Year's resolution in '06 was no more soda and no sweets. And I started, right? So January 1st came around, no more dessert, no more sodas, go out to a restaurant. I was probably getting iced tea or something at the time, which is the same as soda. I know that now, especially if it's sweetened. But I did stick with it, and that was good for me. Knowing that I could stick with it, right? Not failing week one, right? Like I tell you right now, if I would have said no pizza, like I'm going to give up pizza, like I would have been done. And then we know what happens. I'll start over tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. You never do it. So I had done that plenty of times. But I gave up soda and sweets. And then about 2 months later, I was pretty proud of myself for not having any soda or any sweets. But going in 2.5, 3 months, I forget exactly when it was, I hadn't lost any weight. I literally had not lost a single pound. And that, I kind of took a mental beating on that. I was like, well, I'm doing it, but it's not working. I have to also say, I was a vegetarian. I was vegetarian since '92, and now we're talking about 2006. So I was a 360 pound, I'm going to put the veggie in quotes because it was cheese pizza and, sweets and breads and, it wasn't vegetables, right?
Right.
Like, now, but, so So anyway, so I kept searching, and the things that were popular at the time, or actually might have been coming on the tail, were like Atkins and stuff like that. But I felt pretty strongly that I wanted to stay vegetarian, so I wasn't ready to try something like that. And then, but again, so I was bummed out. I had to find something different, and then I just was searching the internet, and I found Joel Fuhrman's book Eat to Live, and he talks about exactly what we're all doing. He's been doing this for a long time, and his book, that first edition of Eat to Live, actually the second one is the same too. It is like he holds no punches, right? Like he just tells you how it is. He says this is what you have to do, and this is how you have to do it. And if you don't want to do it, then you don't have to do it. But you're not going to, but you're not going to be healthy. Like period, you're going to die. It's almost that blunt. And I was so ready for that message, and I was so ready for that message in that way at that point in time that I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to start just eating fruits and vegetables. I'm going to see what happens. And I did it, and I'm just watching time. I don't want to go too long here, but I remember at work the very next day after I started reading Eat to Live, and because I was jamming through the book, I told this guy that I went to get breakfast with every single morning. I said, "Did you know you can eat as many fruits and vegetables as you want?" I said, "I'm getting fruit for breakfast. That's all I'm getting, and I'm going to get a lot. Because did you know you could eat as much as you want?" He goes, "Yeah, of course." And I was like, "Why didn't you tell me?" But yeah, he wasn't in any position really to be telling me either. But it was interesting, and it was funny. So I really did. I concentrated on one thing: eating as many fruits and vegetables as I could, and that's what I did. And so I think that was March, and then my son was born in May. So 2 months later, by the time my son was born, I lost almost 40 pounds in those next 2 months. I mean, the weight started dropping. Those first 2 months, like the weight fell off. It smoothed right out, and I continued to make small improvements on basically what I started giving up, because I didn't give up anything in the beginning. I just loaded up, with fruits and vegetables. If I would typically have went out for pizza and gotten 2 slices of pizza, now I got 2 slices of pizza and the dinner salad, and I ate the dinner salad first, and then I had pizza, some of the pizza. Then my pizza turned to 1 slice of pizza. Then it turned to 1 slice of pizza with, with vegetables on it, and then with no cheese on it. So I call those kind of little tweaks that I made over time. And pizza was clearly the worst thing I was eating. I wasn't like I wasn't going out and having hamburgers one day and then vegetables the next day. But anyway, so I made those tweaks, and I continued at a rate after that initial kind of drop, that 40-pound drop. I lost 8 pounds a month, every single month, until it stopped. And I remember it very well. August of 2007, so 20 months, after I started, I weighed 197 pounds. And then by the end of September, I was like, it's probably going to drop more. By the end of September, 197 pounds. The end of October, 197 pounds. Like it really blew my mind. Like it freaked me out. I'm like, I guess I'm done. And it's exactly what Dr. Fuhrman said would happen, in his book. He's like, you'll get there, and then you'll stay there, And yeah, it was. So anyway, long answer. That's how it happened.
Yeah. So why do you think? I mean, I know you said you had kind of made some attempts or tried some things before, had moderate success. Why do you think this time you were better prepared to receive the information? What was different?
I think. I think I convinced myself that I was at some kind of a bottom where I really needed to make big changes. The things I've learned is that temporary changes give you temporary results, and small changes are going to give you small results. So at that time, I was ready to make big changes, and I set myself up in a way I made big permanent changes. I still have not had a sip of soda or anything that any normal person would call a piece of dessert since December of 2005. And that's how I did it, and that's how it worked. Big permanent changes and sticking with them.
I know you said previously that you weren't necessarily into exercise or sports. Has that changed for you now, kind of being on the other side of things?
Yeah. So what happened was that first year, I had that goal to lose 50 pounds, and I ended up the end of that year, I had lost 90 pounds. And and I lost all of that 90 pounds without doing any exercise. My normal activities, I would still occasionally skateboard or in the wintertime, snowboard, whatever. But, yeah, no exercise, so to speak. And I said, I'm going to start. My wife was always a runner. And I remember just before we got married, she went and ran a marathon in Washington, in Washington D.C. When I say just before, not like the day before, but months before, and I was there, and I was really tired from cheering for her, at this thing. So it was never something that I ever considered doing. But after losing that much weight, after losing the 90 pounds, I had energy, and I felt good, and I said, I'm going to try this. And my goal was to start running. And we had a treadmill because we had bought a super heavy duty treadmill for a 360-pound guy. And I just started, and I would put it on there, and I would walk, and then I would put it up to 7.5, and I would run. And then I would run for no time at all, maybe a minute, 30 seconds. And then I would put it back down, and I would walk, and I just kept doing that. And I put it to 7.5 because that's how fast I thought people ran. Like, I didn't start running slow. I just started running at like 7.5 because that's like 8-minute miles. That sounds like what people run. But I'm so ridiculous.
That's awesome.
Anyway, so it didn't take long at all before I could go a mile, and then I went 2 miles. And then I had only done treadmill running up until that point, but I had done 3 miles, and I signed up for a 5K with the running club, with the local running club. And this was in March of 2007. So I started in January, February, March. So it must have been the end of March or something. And so 3 months in, and I ran the 5K. I didn't keep my 8-minute pace quite because there were hills and stuff when you're on the road. And I remember driving the course, but I never ran outside. But I finished that in like less than 27 minutes, which, I was pretty happy about. And then again, like being around that energy at the race, and everyone, when you're at a running race, everyone's rushing everywhere they go. They want to go sign up. They want to get their bibs. They want to get their pins. They want to put their shirt on. They want to drink their water. They want to go to the bathroom. I loved that. Like, it was really cool. And I'm like one of these, I'm like one of these people right now. Like, I'm going to do this with them. I'm not just going to stand here and clap and wait for my wife to finish and then say, hey, let's go get something to eat. Like, so I was kind of hooked on it at that point. And I just kept running. And I kept running at my same speed on the treadmill. And then I started running more outside and met up with some friends. And I just continued increasing how far I could go. And by, I think it was September of the same year. So now we're 9 months after I started running. The weekend before, I asked my wife, my longest run had been 10 miles. And I asked my wife if she thought I could do a half marathon. And she said, sure, you can do a half marathon. I said, well, I'm going to go out and run today. And if I can run 11 and a half miles, then I'm going to go run the Philadelphia Distance Run is what it's called. And where I live in New Jersey, it's about an hour from Philadelphia. So I was going to drive myself down there and do that. So I did it. I ran out and I came back and I said, I ran 11 and a half miles. I'm going to sign up and I'm going to do this race. And she was actually away the following weekend. So I remember I woke up at like 4 a.m. I drove to Philadelphia. I found a parking garage. I walked over to the start. I had registered online. I picked up my stuff and I put on my thing. I went into my corral, whatever. I ran the half marathon in 1 hour and 47 minutes. And which is a time I'm still pretty, I'm pretty happy with that. That was a little bit, again, that was just a little bit over my 8-minute miles, but like 9 minutes would have been 2 hours. So I was pretty close to my regular pace that I thought people ran at. And then it was cool. Like, I got to see a lot of part of Philadelphia that I didn't see. And I really enjoyed it. I felt great the whole time. And then I remember I came home and I mowed the lawn, and I say that not because I was like not really in the running thing, but there's like endless possibilities of what we can do. Like the energy, like once I was switched and I was fully eating a plant-based diet, like the energy and the ability and the kind of the drive to just do whatever you want to do, that really all came out in me. I don't know if it does that for everybody. It seems like it does that to a lot of people. Like, you can just do anything and you just start, knocking stuff off the list. So I still run now. Last year, I ran my first and only marathon. I ran the New York City Marathon. I did not run it at an 8 minute pace. I ran it quite a bit slower than that. But it was another fantastic experience. For me, at the stage I'm at right now, with my kids being 10 and 12 years old, and I work a pretty long day, I'm just not, I just don't want to take that much time to do the training that's necessary to stay in that kind of marathon shape. So um, I run for fun, and I run so I can do plenty of other ridiculous things that I do, physically.
Yeah, it does also seem for me that I mean, I joke at times with people that I would basically sit on the couch on the internet with my laptop, waiting for my wife to bring me dinner. Partially because I didn't have a ton of energy before. That big, eating that terribly. I never had the energy. Like it was efficiency, do the least amount of work as possible to get through the day and to get to that place on the couch. And then now it's like I feel like I'm constantly high from something because comparatively speaking, I have so much more energy than I used to have before. Anything else besides the energy levels and this newfound love for running, all that. Anything else
So
socially, physically, or emotionally, or anything else that maybe surprised you in terms of with the lifestyle change that just kind of came naturally?
I, for me, a big one was confidence. I didn't grow up a very confident person. You lose 160 pounds, it's very easy to convince yourself that you can do anything, right? And I've done that. I've convinced myself that I can do anything. And then the tricky part is then I test myself all the time. like I try to do whatever I can do. And I love it. It's great. I had ridden dirt bikes, like motorcycles, off road my entire life. And I found out that there are races here that people can actually race their motorcycles, and I like that's something that consumes me. It's another endurance event. Every race is either 2 or 3 hours long. When you're done at the end of that period of time, it's through woods, it's around a motocross track, it's over streams, logs, rocks everywhere and stuff. It's super challenging and it's super fun, and it takes different kind of strength and endurance and kind of mental toughness to keep going at speeds and stuff like that. But I love doing that. I still, at age 43 now, I still love to skateboard. It's something I do a little bit less of right now, but I just keep kind of testing myself. Anything that there is, I'm like, yeah, I can do that, and I go and I try it. So the confidence piece is huge, and that translates into all areas. I mean, it certainly translates into my parenting, for my kids, which, I mean, they're so important to me. One of the reasons why now I like to do dirt biking more is because I can do that with them. We have little dirt bikes for them, and we can go out and we can like have an adventure for the day. We also run together. So we do with the local running club. We try to go Saturday mornings and Wednesday evenings. We don't always make it because if we have other stuff going on. But we do that. We snowboard together. Anything that we can do. We're just very active family, and that's huge to me. And that's a long way from standing outside that fence watching my son ride around on that choo-choo train. And yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty stark change. So, getting to what you said, if you could give some advice to somebody who's maybe at the beginning of this journey, or maybe hasn't even made the decision to go forward, or maybe is lacking that confidence that's needed to believe in themselves, to realize that their destiny's in their own hand, and that change is possible, what would you tell that person?
The most important thing that I would tell anyone is to decide, because as soon as people say that they're going to try something, or they're going to try to do something different, or I'm going to try to make a change, I feel like they're kind of done, right? You've lost. It's too important to give it a try. You need to do it, and then if you fail, you learn from that failure, and you can do something else, right? And I love the work that you're doing. I love that you have this podcast and this YouTube channel, and that this film and this big change, because what you're doing is you're bringing all these stories and putting them in front of people, right? And as soon as you've got 20, 50, 100 people, you've got all these people, it makes it really hard for someone else to say, I can't do it. And it actually does the opposite. And it says, well, hey, if that guy can do it, then I can do it, right? And so people need to believe that, because I think the reason they need to believe that and know that it's possible is because I think that we are our biggest influencers. We're each our own biggest influencer. So the things you tell yourself when you're alone at night, sitting on the chair, whatever, right? The things you tell yourself, the things you tell your friends about yourself, the things that you say are so important. And we need to shift that from people saying, oh, I failed, I can't do this, or I would do that, but I can't give up this, or I can't give up that. That conversation needs to shift to say, I can do this and I will do this. My favorite quote by Henry Ford is, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. So you can't say it superficially. You believe it, put it in your head, and you will make it happen, because everything you do, you will look for evidence to support yourself. Hey, I'm doing well. I had a good day today. Keep them going. So, influence. So decide to do it. Influence yourself, and don't be afraid to spend a little bit of time learning about change and what it really takes to change. We can all figure out what to do. The tricky part is figuring out how to do it. And we're all human. So physiologically, our bodies can work, kind of similarly. If we all started eating fruits and vegetables, we all be, pretty healthy, I believe, right? But we all have different experiences, and our minds probably have learned different things over the course of our life. So it's a little bit harder to figure out how I'm going to do it, how you're going to do it, how Joshua Johnny is going to do it, how anyone else is going to do it. So I think some of that, there are definitely things that can help, but some of that has to be figured out. And my favorite book on the topic is called Switch, and it's by Chip and Dan Heath. And it's outstanding. And I just wanted to mention it to recommend it. And they have this great concept that said there are three factors. There's an elephant, there's a big elephant, a small person riding on top of the elephant, and then there's a path that the elephant is on. And it's an analogy. And the little person on top of the big elephant is our conscious mind. And these are the things that we want to do. And the big elephant is our unconscious mind. And the path is our environment, right? So the elephant is in charge. We have to train our unconscious minds in order to be able to make these changes. And we can change them. We can train them accidentally, like I did. I accidentally did a lot of the right things that enabled this to work for me. But we can also change them more proactively. So I would say, look into yourself, figure out how your mind works and what you need to do to set up your environment, to the things you need to tell yourself, the way you need to set your goals, and look at it as a change, like any other kind of change.
Yeah, that's all great. I couldn't agree more, and that really just goes straight to the heart of, when you say all those things about, what I'm working on and trying to do, those are all exactly the reasons why, they get me going in the morning, so to speak.
Yeah.
And thanks for the book recommendation. So if you could go back and have a conversation with your 32-year-old self, or before that point at which you decided to make a change, and have a conversation with that person, is there anything that you, knowing what you know now, is there anything that you think you could have said that would have resonated with that person and maybe help facilitate that change a little earlier?
Yeah, the thing that I would say to myself or anyone else is, what are you waiting for? There is never going to be the good time. It's never going to become any more easy. When I meet new people, since I've made this change, I do tons of volunteering now. I'll talk to anyone, and I'll help anyone I can. I'll take any chance I can go speak or anything like that. But I tell people, someone who's just starting out, right, and they're down and they say they can't do this. The only difference between me and that person is the start date. I started 10 years ago. You're starting today. And in 2 years from now, me and you are right there next to each other, buddy. That's it. What are you waiting for? Why wait? I don't have any regrets. I appreciate my entire life. I would absolutely have been different if I figured this out when I was younger, when I was in high school, when I was in college, before I had children. I can't say if I would be better off or worse, but I know how I feel now, and I know how truly amazing this life feels. And the only thing I would say is figure it out as soon as you can. It's not going to get any easier. You're only continuing those bad habits or bad whatever that got people into that situation.
And then I guess lastly, where can people find out more about you, what you're doing, and potentially connect with you?
Yeah, so easy places on Facebook. It's Anthony Masiello on Facebook. I have a blog that my wife and I created, and we don't update nearly as often as we can, but we're getting there. It's called veggiesfordinner.com. And what we really do is we just put recipes and things that we've kind of vetted through our family and our friends. And they're not usually our recipes. There are a couple of originals on there, but like if we find one that, what I would call a crowd pleaser, like everyone likes, we put it there, because one of the most difficult questions to ask is, when somebody says, wait, you don't eat meat, you don't eat eggs, you don't eat cheese, what do you eat? And I'm saying I can say vegetables, but that's not really what people want to hear. So when we find something that tastes good, that other people, have enjoyed and things like that, we just put them up there, and it might be helpful for some people, but I'm certainly on there also.
Great. I'll include links to all of that. And thanks for the time. Thanks for sharing your story and for the inspiration. And we'll look forward to catching up with you soon.
Great. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Jason. Thank you for this interview today and for doing what you're doing. I love it. It's great.
Thanks. Well, have a great one.
Okay. You too. Bye-bye.